Well, who's on first?
Yeah.
Go ahead and talk. Who? The guy on first.
Who?
The guy playing first base.
Who?
The guy on first.
Who is on first?
What are you asking me for? I'm asking you.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Who is on First. Thank you guys for listening. I'm Tim Ellebrook. That is Brian Kaplinger, and that is Michael Ramsey. We're excited to come to your living room, wherever you're watching, listening, whatever. Really excited to talk some baseball. We're going to go over some stuff from the first week of the season. I guess technically week one and a half from the last time we guys talked to you guys. And then we got some cool topics, and then we're going to talk about the Cardinals and Cubs this week. But before we get started, how you guys doing?
Doing
I'm
well.
good, man.
Yeah. Coming out of Easter, it was a great day yesterday. Baseball's on every single day, so really can't beat it right now.
Yeah, I'd say the same. I mean, just enjoying life. Beautiful days. Got to cut the grass for the first time today. Hadn't done that in a while.
Yeah.
Big time.
Did you miss
enjoy it? I don't, but at the same time, it's therapeutic. So I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I did that yesterday, end of the day. Yeah, at the end of the day yesterday. And now everybody's doing it today, so it's just like noise everywhere because the houses in the neighborhood are so close to each other.
You made all your neighbors mad because you're the guy that cut the grass.
That's
I know,
right.
It always does kind of seem like there's like competition of some sorts for everybody.
100%.
But we're not here to talk about lawn care. We're here to talk about baseball. Before we get started, just give us a follow, subscribe if you don't. That would be awesome. It's at WOFBB podcast. Anywhere you find all the media goods that you listen to, watch, and all that cool stuff. So today I'm going to start off with you guys. We're going to talk about the ABS system because it kind of went didn't go under the radar, but it just wasn't talked about a lot because they demoed it in spring training last year, got it in spring training this year. I just want to get your guys' thoughts. What do you think about everything overall? I want to give you a couple numbers. So we're recording this as of Monday night, April 6th. So when this comes out on the 7th, there probably is going to be a few numbers that are going to be off. But honestly, I think percentages are going to be pretty interesting. But I'm going to give you some basics. Right. So the overall overturn rate, so the rate of being challenged and the challenge being won is 55% total. So who have the teams and the players who are challenging are winning at 55% of the time, which means the umpires are winning 45% of the time. Breaking that down just a little bit more, the opposition, I guess you could say the hitter side and then the fielder side is the way it's classified. The hitter side are challenging and winning the challenge at a 50% rate, so it's perfectly 50%. And then on the opposition side, or like let's just say the fielder side, we could break that down into two being catchers and pitchers. The catchers are winning at a rate of 60%, and pitchers are winning at a rate of 46%. One more small thing to add to that: the total amount of challenges that have been had has been 542. So I think we're 9 games in exactly as of Monday. So 542 challenges in 9 games. There are 249 challenges from the hitter's point of view, 280 challenges from the catcher's point of view, and then give me a guess on the numbers. I mean, you guys can do quick math, but the pitchers.
It's got to be low, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, 13 pitchers have challenged and won. Or no, I'm sorry, that's just challenged completely. So those are just some small things. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Go for it, Michael.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I personally am all for the ABS system. I think that it's properly set up currently too. With teams are allowed just 2. If they get it right, they can continue on with that. And we've kind of talked a little bit about it previously, but I think it's a system that's going to evolve as it goes to where you'll see more people being a little strategic about how they're using it. But I do think the numbers that you're laying out there, Tim, are pretty interesting, especially to see how teams adapt. where catchers are doing a great job challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Hitters, not quite as well, and pitchers, as we all kind of think, a little
Yeah.
emotional, and sometimes will make a decision that maybe is a little off base. So I think that's pretty interesting. But overall, like I said, I'm a proponent for it. It's one of those things. Like I said, if you could challenge every single one, every single pitch, be a little different. It'd really slow the game down. But you're not seeing that happen on every single pitch. You're seeing it,
Yeah.
a few times maybe in an inning. And sometimes you'll go innings at a time without even seeing anybody throw out a challenge. Part of that is, a shout out to a lot of the umpires do a very nice job most of the time. But we do have a few of those outliers. And I'd say that ABS system is probably going to push some of those fellas, the CB Buckners of the world, probably are going to be looking at their retirement package at the end of this season, if I had to guess.
A little early retirement for some of these guys,
Yeah.
but hey, it's all good. No, I mean, I'm in the same boat. Like, I absolutely love, how it's set up and orchestrated. I like the fact I didn't know how I was going to feel, honestly, about the fact if you won it, you got to keep it at first. But I think that's an advantage. So if your team is really good at being able to, make those calls and see the ball or the judgment on that side, it's fun. I mean, the fascinating part to me is a lot of teams are forgoing early in the game and waiting till like 6th, 7th. And I'll be interested again, like you said, Michael, to see how it shifts a little bit. But like, there's been some key at bats I've seen early in the game that like I'm screaming at my TV going, you should challenge that. Now, granted, I've got a better view than the hitter does, most of the time, things like that, just because we've got the little box, even though it's not as accurate, it's there. But I think, I'll be interested to see as games get more meaningful, more impactful, if you don't see some of the players really in key moments, like bases loaded, 2 outs, and you take, a 2-1 pitch that is called a strike, but you think it's a ball and you can get that switch to a 3-1. I mean, that's big in the game of baseball, no matter what time it is, as far as the plate appearance or inning or anything like that. And so I'll be interested as the hitters settle in a little bit more, if their challenges go up a little bit more. Catchers obviously are still, I think, with the numbers and the stats, they're always going to be the best judge of the ABS system, just because of how they're receiving the ball and things like that. But it's been fun to watch, because I've actually seen a couple like players get heated because like they'll go to challenge a call. I think it was Simeon the other night. It may not have been. I know there was one in San Francisco that it was a swing and the umpire called it on the swing, but didn't really make any notion to that. And so the hitter thought he just called a strike. So he challenged, and the guy's like, you can't challenge that. And then they started going at it a little bit. And it was just kind of funny, like there's still going to be those arguments. There's still going to be those discrepancies. And I think I love the facial expressions of the players the most when they want to challenge, but they know they haven't been given the green light to challenge quite yet in the game. Because they just give you that look like, man, I know that is not right, and we got to get it called.
There's one moment, it is very recent, the game last night in Detroit. Adam Ottavino, Benetti, all of the announcers. So I think it's worth mentioning that any of the play-by-play booths, no booth has access to the strike zone on their display. And I don't know how long it's going to last. I believe they said it's only going to go for half the season, but they wanted to keep away from give the ability to cheat. But there was a changeup that I think it was the 9th inning. So it was bottom of the 9th. The Cardinals were ahead, and the closer threw a changeup low. I think it was middle, but it was low. We saw as a watcher, it was like 2 inches off the plate, but all 5 broadcasters were like, "Oh, that's worth a challenge. That's so close." we have the hindsight of seeing the box,
Right.
and they were I remember thinking that's not even close at all. But they saw what they saw with their eyes without a box was like, oh man, that's like right in the zone. That could be close. So it is really interesting to think about like what the zone is based on, you know, what you think it is versus what it actually is, because I think it's just quite a big change that's going to even itself out. You know, like if you get it to 50-50, I think that's probably the goal, or even honestly lower than that. I think if you ask umpires, they would want to be right all the time, but I mean, they're humans.
Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting as people, players, broadcasters, umpires are finding out what the actual zone is, because I think it's overall probably a little bit different than everybody's used to. Umpires also have always had a zone that's like a corner heavy, depending on the batter, and now it's a perfect box. I feel like catchers probably have a bigger zone. Hitters probably want a smaller zone, which is normal. So I do think it's interesting. I'm going to throw a couple of questions to you guys. I have the top challengers, teams, and players and stuff. I'm curious if you could give me let's do a team, because the team's associated with player. What team and what player do you think has challenged the most and won the most?
I'm going to let Brian take that because I actually didn't look earlier.
Oh,
okay. I think I know it too, but I think it's the Yankees, and Aaron Judge is the one that has done it, because I think I've been reading and seeing a bunch of stuff about the Yankees being the team that has challenged the most.
So the challenge the most goes to Miami.
Really?
Not won the most, but they have the most challenges at 20. And it's the catcher side. They've won 12 out of 20, so at a 60% success rate. But there is a team and a player associated with a team that go hand in hand with the most challenges and most wins, I guess you could say. I don't know if that would help at all. Because, Michael, you said you looked.
I looked, and
okay.
it was kind of interesting because I was like, oh, well, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. So it's the Angels. The Angels have 12 challenges, and 10 of them have won. So they have an 83% success rate. And it's individually carried by Logan O'Hoppe.
Interesting. I mean, it makes sense. Obviously, catcher again.
Yep.
On that side, I think the hitters are still trying to figure out, to your point, Tim, what the zone really looks like. Yeah. And I think as the season goes on, I think we will see more hitters get involved, and especially good hitters will get more of the green light to go for the challenges whenever they feel like it. Yeah. Because I don't remember what game it was, but I remember watching Herrera for us. He actually challenged his first two at the plate. He wasn't even behind. It wasn't him as the catcher. He was the batter and challenged and won both of them. And just kind of had this smirk on his face and smile as he looked over to the dugout. But I think what's fascinating in all of this, and especially from the catcher's side, is, and you said it a little bit, the corners now have become such a weapon for pitchers. And so it'll be fascinating to see how that really plays out, because the umpires, they're still going to have their own style. Some of them are going to give you a bigger edge. And if early in the game, these hitters aren't challenging that and you can get that call, you're going to live out there. But then as it gets later in the game, do the umpires adjust when they start seeing themselves miss through the ABS system? Like, again, you mentioned Buckner. Now we probably all know the man's not changing. He is who he is. Yeah. Yep. I think he's the reincarnate of Angel Hernandez, but hey, we'll see. But it's like, I want to see if a couple hitters can get it right, or even the catcher on that side, if the zone will shrink from the umpire and they get a little bit tighter, and what that's going to look like as games and seasons kind of continue to roll on. Because, umpires, obviously, they want to stay higher than that 94% as far as their correct calls. And some of them are going to get, they're going to shrink that strike zone, which is going to be in favor for offense, which I would say MLB probably would love more than it to go the flip side.
Yeah.
That's an interesting notion too, Brian, because most of the time you'd see an umpire go the opposite way, where you may see the
Right.
zone expand a little bit as the game goes on. Seeing it go the opposite way is kind of an interesting notion. I think you're probably right, especially in tight games, like you said. But the other one I was going to call out was Dylan Dingler. He won Gold Glove and kind of shocked everybody
Yes.
last year.
Yeah.
Kid's 7 for 7 right now behind the plate, so evidently he does know that zone.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
he made a couple calls on the Cardinals over the weekend and got them right. So
Yeah, made Pedro Paz look like a scrub. You guys brought up an interesting point a couple minutes ago about the umpires and like the retirement thing is more of in jest, but Talking Baseball brought this up maybe a week ago, I think in opening weekend, about the big question was, will this cause umpires to retire just like mid-season? Like they brought up the CB Buckner issue because I think it was like 3 games in a row. I know 2 games in a row was like just egregious calls. 3rd game in a row, I think he actually got hurt and had to get carted off the field or something like that. But they brought an interesting point. I guess get your guys' opinion on of like they were at opposite ends of the spectrum. One of the guys said like they think this is going to cause umps to get called out or get put in positions where they can't call games really quickly, and it will turn into the robot system really, really quickly. The other guy was saying it will stay the human element, as long as possible. But I'd be curious to get your guys' thoughts because there's an element of the human part of the game that's beautiful, and we have the ability to correct it now. Like it can be corrected. It relies on the talent, I guess you could say, of players knowing their strike zones and potentially being wrong and learning. But you have the ability to correct egregious calls, and umpires. They also brought up the point like it's really going to show, and I think they brought this stat up. I should have looked this up. I didn't think about it. Most of the overturned calls right now on umpires are of a certain age, bracket.
Yeah.
So they brought up the point, what does that turn into? Because, it's clear the older you get, the worse your eyesight gets.
Yep.
It's a pretty linear thing. So I threw a lot out at you, but what do you guys think about that?
yeah, obviously, I think you're going to see some that are just gonna have a hard time adjusting. That I think will probably end earlier. But I think the beauty of it is we get to see umpires actually who really want to be umpires and are putting in the work. Like now they've always had the grading system where they can go back and look and view film, all of that stuff. But now I think too, what'll be really fascinating for me, and I found myself kind of paying attention even early on in the season, like I said a minute ago, is how are the adjustments in game going for the umpires? Like, again, you see a call, like, again, I'm not trying to harp on the umpire. If it's like 0.1 to 4 or 5 outside the strike zone, like, and they just happen to get it wrong, like that's a 50-50 shot right there. Like those are close. Like you start getting, an inch, beyond that are outside the zone or in the zone, not called strikes. Like we've seen a couple of them that are like center cut, middle of the plate, maybe a touch high above the belt, and they're like ball. And it's like, that is like a meatball right down the middle. You can't call that a ball. And so those things, like, those are the egregious ones. And I think if you've got umpires that are, not willing to adjust in mid game, they're going to get phased out, regardless, because, whether we want to agree with it or not, and I'm not saying you have to have like perfect eyesight, but these guys are getting tested just like, any of the other athletes. Like they've got to be in a certain physical condition. Now, obviously they're not going to be in the athlete's condition of that regard, but they've got to meet certain standards to be a part of this. The challenge always comes in is just like anything in baseball, it's a union. So they're going to have their say in how this is implemented and who gets to play. And I think the fascinating thing is for the fans for the first time, yes, you can get the ire towards the umpires, but at the same time, the teams and the players have a way to adjust it and fix it. And so honestly, I think that's going to shift, and it's actually going to put probably a little bit more attention on the fielding umpires now and their calls, because the home plate umpire is always going to be there. And like, I'm not saying people aren't still going to talk about that, but
You're
as
talking about like
teams,
the swung, didn't swing
yeah,
base call type stuff?
yeah,
Okay.
because it's things like that now that become incredible because you can't challenge whether or not somebody's swung or not. Like that's if the first base umpire or the third base umpire calls it a swing, it's a swing. And so those moments are still there. And I think if MLB does this right, which I think they will, you can't make any sweeping adjustments for the next few years in this system. You've got to get data. You've got to let the analysis of all that's going on be more than just a year. Before you can make any sweeping changes. And like I said, I'm in favor. I wasn't at first, but I'm in favor of if you get it right, you keep your challenge.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I think it adds an incentive for players to want to be smart. And I think it keeps the pace of the game because you're not really running into these long, we got to wait and really, really see this. Like the T-Mobile thing, the sponsorship they have, it comes right there on the screens in the stadium. It's quick, it's adjusted, and we move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing about it is like, at first, I think, of course, a lot of the umpires and former umpires are calling out, well, they hate it because, it's putting all this negative press on them. But at the same time, I think it can be the opposite, too, because we've seen some of these players that challenge balls that it's like, why are you challenging that ball? Like, that's clearly a strike.
Right.
Like, even without the box up there, like, that's clearly a strike.
Yeah.
And then it pops up there, and it's like, to me, then that's a bigger knock on, the guy who just challenged that than, the umpire that missed one at the .1, like you said, Brian.
Yeah.
But, it's a give and take thing. It's one of those, you're going to have some really weird stuff probably happen at some point where you're going to see a game end on a ball that gets challenged and somebody wins it by .1, one way or the other. But at the same time, you're going to clean up the game overall. And I think that overall, the umpires, Major League Baseball, the players, like everybody just wants the best game forward. And you don't want a game ending because of a bad call, and this gives us the ability to, potentially fix it. Now, like I said, this is where teams have to get strategic about how they're using this stuff too, because you may have an umpire who misses a call at the end of the game, but you blew your challenges in the third inning of a game. And you know what? But that's on the team then. It's no longer just on the umpire that, missed the ball, slightly off the edge of the plate or something like that. That's on the team because they didn't, maybe they mishandled it or something. But, I've kind of heard just, in my friend circles and things like that, a little bit of both. You have some of these people that are like, I hate this, like I hate what it's doing to the game. But then you have everybody else who's kind of sitting there going, you know what? I actually kind of like this. I think it's actually helping the game out because truthfully, these umpires that don't want to adjust to this, don't want to get better, probably shouldn't be umping the games anymore anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
Umpire last week literally came out and said he forgot the count during the game. It's like, don't get me wrong. Guys aren't perfect. Things like that, though, can't happen. Like, you slightly miss a ball off the side of a plate. And that happens every once in a while. You can't miss 26 of them like old CB did in his first game of the year. But, you miss one or two during the game. No harm, no foul. Like you said, Brian, you hit that in that 94% zone. I think most people are going to be pretty happy because, the players, there's a room for gap for them too. But you can't be missing 20-plus calls in a game and still allowed to go out there every single night because you are dictating games. At that point, like it's not like, one missed call. Like, many years ago, we watched a guy lose a perfect game because an umpire made a bad call at first base. Yeah, that really stinks. But that was one missed call that did decide that game, obviously, or at least that piece of it. But
that was pre-challenge,
and everything. So, but now you have a much different factor where you have these. Umpires are going to have, maybe 10 balls that they missed during a game or something. And that's it. And the players, like you said, Brian, are going to have to do a better job adjusting as well, being better hitters, in my opinion. And so overall, I think it's better for the game, and how they're rolling it out, I think is smart, because they didn't just throw it in, to the folks that maybe don't understand. Like, they ran this through the minor leagues first. They put it through spring training for a couple of years for guys to understand how to use this system. And so I think they've been smart about how this is going about.
Yeah. So I'm one real quick question before we move on. What do you guys think about the zone percentage thing that's going on? So if it's 0.1%, if it touches the zone, it can be overturned into a strike. Do you guys have a thought about, should there be a percentage of it has to be in the zone? Like a lot of people are saying 50% at minimum or 10% at minimum. Do you guys have a thought about that?
I mean, this is hard. I mean, I guess it's really where you land. Like, obviously, pitchers are going to want to sit out here and argue the fact that, like, if it touches the zone at all. And so, like, at the end of the day, the way it is written in MLB is if the ball crosses the zone, doesn't matter how much of the ball, any part of the ball, it's considered a strike. And, yeah, it makes some very frustrated batters sometimes when literally – maybe a thread of the baseball is what catches the zone. Yeah. But it's like, the reality is and this is how I've always been. And when I talk to people about it all the time too, it's like, if a ball is more than a baseball length outside the zone, okay, that's not necessarily a hittable pitch. I mean, we see batters or hitters that can hit that ball.
Yeah.
If you're talking about a ball that's literally just right there on the zone, even if it's barely touching the zone, chances are you're still going to be able to put the sweet spot of the bat on that ball. And so I think, again, as hitters adjust, I don't think that'll become as big of a deal. Again, there's going to have to be, and I'm a firm believer of this, there's going to have to be some modifications to the system and the zone of the system. I don't think it's perfectly fine-tuned. And I think they're starting to find that out, obviously, with the different size of players and how the strike zone gets stretched for different hitters versus other hitters, just because of their build. Like, they're going to have to make some adjustments with
like
that.
Altuve versus Aaron Judge. Yeah,
exactly. Like, it's just, that's, and again, it's not a competitive advantage per se, but at the same token, it's a vastly different guy to pitch to. But to all credit, you look at the guys like Aaron Judge. I mean, it's not like his strike zone wasn't smaller or, very different before. Yeah. I mean, it's still the same strike zone, at least when you look at the letter of the law and how they judge it. It's about that chest high nameplate down to the top of the knees. That's what it's always been. So it doesn't matter. And now the thing that you have to, if you're just a casual fan, adjust to, it's not when they're squatting, it's based on when they're just standing straight up. So like Altuve or Alejandro Kirk, all of those guys, they can get as little as they want in the plate. It shouldn't change the strike zone.
For sure.
Yeah.
At least for them. And so I think some people misinterpret and they think, oh, well, I'll just get really, really small and my strike zone just becomes middle. And then that's all I got to wait on. It doesn't work that way. Right. And, and so I do think they're going to have to adjust it. And again, just like we've been saying for this whole first segment, everybody has to adjust to this. Yep. The umpires have to adjust. The hitters are going to have to adjust. So for me, let's wait and really analyze what the numbers look like and the umpires, once we get past the All-Star game, because then you'll have enough data that's kind of streaming in and you'll be able to go. And I think, maybe, again, I know they do the scorecards, but maybe this ABS grading too will come apart in whether or not you get to make the playoffs and the World Series as an umpire down the road, because I think that'll be a big indicator. Because if you're not getting, challenged as often, that says something to me. That means the players agree with you as an umpire behind the plate. They're like, okay, if he says it's a ball, I trust him. And, and you're starting to see that the players that have good relationships with umpires, like they'll still turn around and ask him, like, that was a strike, you sure? And he's like, it caught the, and the guy's like, okay, I'm gonna give it to you because I trust you because you're hitting 98% all the time.
Yeah, that's the framing system, that relationship system stays in place until when I don't know, the whole robot system comes into play, and which I
Yeah.
think honestly most people don't really want.
No.
Correct.
Hypothetically, having perfect calls would be fun, but I think the human element being taken away would ruin the game a lot.
Yeah.
And so which means framing still stays in play because you get 2 challenges, you use them up, you're gonna lose them.
Right. And one last thing I'll say before we jump on this too, like the beauty I think in keeping the human element always involved is that there's an excitement to the game because you are going to get the CB Buckners, and I don't know if the man is doing it on purpose or not. Like I'd like to think he's not.
Feels like
Right.
sometimes he is.
But at the same token, like, I mean, it still gives you that villain. Like at the end of the day, it's like when you're on the field as a fan and you're watching, you don't want the umpires to decide the game, but man, it's fun to sometimes yell at the TV or yell when you're in the stadium. Like, you missed it. Like those things, it's just part of the game. You look at every major sport, like the NFL tried this. They tried being able to challenge all the calls, right? Like every penalty you were able to challenge, and it horribly failed. Fans hated it. Coaches hated it. Players hated it. And so I think if MLB is smart and they learn from these other sports and go, you know what, there's always going to be a human element.
Yep.
And teams will have to be, like you said, Michael, a little bit more strategic in the way they approach their challenges, which I think adds such a wonderful even backstory to the games now, because there is a little bit more strategy, all the more. Just like, Tim, you love a good suicide squeeze or a bunt, those type of things. Like now it's going to be like, how are they going to play out these challenges? When are they going to use them? Who are they really going to let? Because I think some of these role players become key to their team, because like someone like a Nico Horner or, that really knows the strike zone well is going to get the freedom to challenge. Whereas someone like PCA right now, it's like, dude, just don't challenge anything. 100%. Let us take care of that for you.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I know the one point I would add on that, Tim, is just you think about all the other major sports when you talk about, well, should there be this percentage or not? Like most other sports, it's the line. Like the out of bounds line is the out of bounds line, and that is what it is. It doesn't matter if your 1 centimeter of your toe touched the line or not. It's out, or it's to me, it's a strike whether you missed by 0.1 or not, because that goes to both the umpire, catcher, and the hitter. Like the umpire could also get it right by 0.1. So it is what it is. Like you said, Brian, it's going to adjust a little bit, and I do think it's going to be funny when you come up near playoff time and you got some of these guys and they're like, "Oh, why didn't you challenge that ball in the 6th inning?" And it's like, well, because my coach doesn't trust me, and you're going to hear some of those guys do something like that.
Yeah,
it's
for
like,
sure.
Ooh.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like the human elements of the game make some lose, make some win, and you can't win everything, or it's not fun anymore. The emotional component gets taken out, and to your point, Brian, having villains in some cases is really nice. You don't always want it to be the rule keepers, so to speak, but in this game, there has to be one because of how the game works with the strike zone and everything.
Yeah.
And to lose is fun. It's fun to be mad, but then the next day you play again, it's like, all right, we do this over again.
Yeah.
All right. Since you brought up PCA, let's talk about that. So we're finishing up. We're in the second half of week 2 of the season. I thought it'd be fun to talk about some just key moments from the week so far. So starting, I guess we're going to be in half the weeks because when we record. But what are some takeaways for you guys? I'm going to bring up the hot topic one, and that is the Joe Adele game, which happened, I believe it was Saturday night. Were you guys watching it live at all?
No.
Me neither, because it's late.
Yeah, it's really
on
late.
The West Coast. So our boy Joe Adele, who was probably one of the worst defensive outfielders for the past few years, had the best game of his life defensively.
Yep.
I believe he went 0 for 4, so he didn't do anything offensively, but they won the game 1-0 because of a leadoff home run for the Angels, which is
beautiful.
That's pretty cool. I'm going to throw a couple things at you, and you tell me what you guys think. So one of them was Cal Raleigh, a Cal Raleigh potential home run robbed. The last one was, what's his name? What's the shortstop's name?
Crawford.
Crawford, yeah, J.P. Crawford.
Yep.
Thank you. Was the last one, and probably the most infamous one in my opinion. And then Naylor was the second one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read a couple things off to you guys. Ironically, the Crawford home run robbery only had an expected batting average of .06. So it was supposed to be caught according to all the metrics and everything, but it was a home run in 23 parks out of 30. But the really, really fun one, I think, is the first one, Cal Raleigh's potential home run. He's been struggling all season since it started. Can't hit anything to save his life. Finally got something out of here. It had an expected batting average of 900.
Yeah.
It was a home run in 20 of 30 parks. What a game for him, man.
Yeah.
They're building a statue in Anaheim, probably.
At least out of sand for right now.
Right,
Well,
yeah.
It's like the way you got to frame that to me is he went 0 for 4 but won the game for the Angels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, for sure.
He saved 3 home runs in one game, so he won the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the final one, which I think you said was the Naylor one where he ends up, or no, it was the Crawford
JP
one that he
Crawford one,
went
yeah.
into the stands. Like,
Yes.
I'm torn on that. Like, I love it. Like, you know, you make the catch, and I know the rule is as long as you make the catch in the field of play, it's a catch, even if it carries you into the stand, like you carry it into the stands, all that stuff. But like, how much fun would it be just to kind of think about? And I mean, home run robberies aren't as big, you know, all the time, but like, you can't carry that ball into the stands with you. Like, I mean, you got to somehow get that ball out of your glove. I think it would be an interesting dynamic to the game. They're not going to change that because, again, how often does that happen? Because I've seen some of the replays now, and I can't remember who it was, but I think it was one of the Cubs players at one point when he went into the stands to catch a ball, and they have clear, and again, this was before replay, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
They have clear evidence that there was a fake ball, one of the rubber sitting right there, and he goes through and happens to knock both of that off. He doesn't catch the ball, he just happens to pick that one up and put it in his glove and show it. Umpire calls it out, and he immediately tosses it back into the crowd like, we're getting this thing out of here before they check the ball. And you know, nothing ever comes of it. I mean, and so it's like, because again, my question would be like, you know, Joe Adell, not to take anything away from him, but are we 100% sure that he held on to that ball all the way through to the ground? Like, and again, going into the stands, making that play, kudos to him. Michael, you said it, you got it right. He won the game for him, and I love it.
Absolutely.
But it's like, there's no guarantee he didn't just scoop that ball back up while he's laying on the ground, in there. And I think that's still part of the beauty of the game, because very rarely do you get outfields like Anaheim. I mean, you've got some Boston, you know, Dodgers, you know, a couple of stadiums where they have those short porches that you end up kind of getting into the fans if you want in the corners to catch the ball. It doesn't happen very often on home runs anymore.
Dodgers have one too, I think.
Yep. Yeah. And so it's, I mean, you know, again, hats off to him, but like part of me wants to see like some sort of rule where it's like, you gotta, you know, you can climb the wall and all that good stuff, but you got to come back down. Like you got to at least touch the grounds in the field of play for it to be considered a catch.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't get the picture, man. Like that picture's that's probably the best picture in baseball the last few years.
That was a pretty electric picture.
And I looked into it. It's actually a team. I don't know, is it a team photographer, an MLB photographer? But she was just happened to be in the outfield to try and get a perspective shot from the field point of view, and it just so happens Adele was going to catch a ball and falls in, and then he stands up, and she just snaps, you know, the picture of a lifetime for that. Yeah. You know, I would say those types of things, those types of plays are kind of rare in and of itself. So don't take away, in my opinion, don't take away something that's so rare that adds so much drama to it. If I was if I was Cal or if I was J.P. Crawford and that could have won us the game, I'd be mad.
Yeah.
You know what? But like,
I'm sure he is.
You know, the next day we just play again.
Yep.
You know, that wasn't a clinching game by
Yeah.
any means. And you know, Adele's not the greatest fielder statistically, you know, before this year. But it happens so rare, especially that type of thing. And those moments are remembered, because I remember there's one in Boston. I think it was at Tatis was going to catch it, and he just runs into it and flips over. So he
Jackie
caught it,
Bradley.
but he was running full speed and flipped. So I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the uniqueness of baseball too, though. Where it's like, you know, whereas you're playing football or basketball, like it's going to be the exact measurements for the entire, you know, field and everything. Baseball's not that way. They're like, here's some minimums to follow, and outside of that, do your own thing. And so you got walls going, you know, like this in the middle of fields. You've got, like you said, little short fences at the edge of right field in a couple stadiums and stuff. And so I think that's what makes baseball, like you said, Tim, you don't see it very often. And honestly, those are the fun videos to watch, like Alex Gordon diving into the stadium some years back and stuff. Like, it's like the guy's full Superman. And it's like, oh, that's pretty electric. So,
you bring up an interesting point, and with baseball, and the fact like that's only one part of the field too, because there's clear out of bounds lines going up left and right field. But then most of MLB stadiums now are nets all the way up, almost completely to the outfield. But the outfield is just complete fair game. And the dimensions are weird in different places. It is so unique in that, and you don't want to take that away. That's what makes it special.
No, I don't want to take any of the field aspect away. I'm just saying, like, this is maybe the devil's advocate side of it. Like, you know, again, now that the netting is up, right, up and down, like you take, again, a few years ago when Nolan Arenado went into the third base and they had the chair there. That doesn't happen anymore because the net's there. The Jeter play in the World Series going into those things don't happen anymore. And I know the reasoning wasn't because players were going into the stands, those type of things, because there were iconic moments. Like I remember Joey Votto, a fan interfered with him and he ends up grabbing his shirt. You know, I'm sure people have seen that video around, and, you know, all of the fun stuff that comes with that. And, you know, there's a safety aspect, obviously, as to why the nets have gone up. And I'm all for those. We don't need any more little kids getting smoked with 114 mile an hour fastballs.
I was gonna say those things kind of coincide with exit velocities, just screaming, going sky high,
and stuff like that. And so I know, like, again, I'm with you. There's so much fun seeing somebody go into the stadium and rob it, all of that fun stuff. But it's like, I'm just saying, add a little bit more intrigue. Like, you know, in NFL, baby, you got to keep your feet in to secure the catch. You take a risk doing that on the sidelines in the back of the end zones. Some of the outfielders, brother, you're gonna have to keep your toes on the dirt. Let's see what you got. No, I mean, that's just, it could be fun. I mean, again, does it rob potential plays? Sure. And I'm not here to rob the fun of it, because again, Joe Adele, man, hats off. Tremendous play. I don't know that I'm running full speed and doing that, at least not now, because I wouldn't have any knees left if I tried that. But, you know, again, it's just fun because, like, seeing him do that. And then I know in our text thread, I sent you guys the wonderful video of Marcell Ozuna and his St. Louis debut, or not debut, but in his time in left field, where he made the nice climb of the wall, you know? And so it's like, I want to see more of those. I think those are more entertaining.
I actually agree with you.
Scaling the wall,
and then completely missing the ball.
Misjudging.
Right. Thinking you're going to
put on Twitter every time,
baby.
Yeah, I put on Twitter every time that video pops up. I have to watch it a minimum of 10 times.
Right.
What about you guys? What are some moments? Let's go, Michael. What do you, give me one.
So I guess I'll go with you guys. Boy, O'Neal Cruz. Ever since the first game of the season, that guy has been on an absolute tear.
Offensively.
And, well, he can make up for the giving up the defensive runs if the guy's hitting. I mean, he's on pace probably to hit 40-plus home runs this season right now, and batting over 350, and hitting balls 150 miles an hour. So,
insane.
I mean, that's, if they can get that guy plus what they're getting production-wise from these other Pirates hitters currently, like Brian and I said early in the year, Pirates are going to be
They're good.
there
Team.
all year.
Yeah.
You know, so it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my number one, and Tim, I think you know this is coming. Like, it's Jordan Walker. I told you guys at the very beginning, I needed him to do this, and I don't know if he's listening to me or what. I mean, Tim, you sent out a good video where Ollie was on Cardinals territory, talking with Lance Lynn and the crew there.
Hey, you watched
and
stuff I sent you. That's cool.
I do, man. But I love the fact that he talked about with Walker, like the adjustments that have been made have been both from Walker's perspective and Brant Brown. Like they've come at it together, and there's been this adjustment because I think towards the end of last year when they were working on stuff, they were forcing Walker to do it the way that it was designed to do. And he just was getting frustrated. And I think you saw that in his play. And in the off season, spring training, and even now, they're saying, okay, let's modify this. Let's compromise this. So, yes, you are trying some new things, but doing it in a manner that's comfortable to you. And my Lord, at least to this point, has it been a benefit because that 114, 459-foot grand slam in Detroit, they ultimately lose that game. But I think that game in and of itself was like the coming out going, this is what Jordan Walker can be. And this is why we need to hold on to this kid and continue to let him develop.
Yeah. That was the Jordan Walker game, man. It doesn't matter if we lost because, I mean, the season kind of says that anyway, you know, no matter what the records are, we're looking to see some of these players and what they can do. Did you see the history of that one, Brian? Did you read about it for the Cardinals team?
No. What's that?
So that's the longest grand slam in Cardinals history.
Okay.
I guess farthest would be the better word to say it.
Yes.
Technically, I get it only counts since StatCast started because that's when they started measuring.
Yeah.
But so when was that? The early teens. That's the furthest grand slam in the history of the team. Which that's pretty cool. And his first one.
I was going to say, I think it was like the second longest that has been hit thus far this year.
Yes,
at least at that point. And so it's like, again, I mean, you talk about O'Neal Cruz. This is another kid like that just hits the ball hard.
Yep.
And if he can get that launch angle and start getting some of those, and that's what I think has been more impressive to me. Obviously, the granny was amazing. But what's more impressive is I'm seeing him hit the ball in the air. Yep. And I think what I told you, Tim, we were talking a little bit about it a couple days ago. It was even the next at bat or a couple of bats later when he was down 0-2 and they were feeding him sliders off the plate that he was swinging at earlier. He works the count back to full. And then the pitcher pinpointed, dotted up a slider on the outside corner. And he was still able to lace it into center field for a single. And I'm like, that's a different Jordan Walker because normally he is over the top of that, coming out of his shoes, swinging at a slider. And he's able to kind of stay back. And so, like, it gives me hope. And so that, that's been one of the big ones for me. I think the other one, I'll kick off this, is just watching Jordan do his thing. I think he is leading in almost every offensive category.
You are correct, sir.
If the dude can just stay healthy, my God, can the Astros be really good with just him? It doesn't matter if they have pitching or not. Like, that dude is going to hit the ball and just keep him healthy. Transition to DH, my friend. You're going to make a lot of money.
Go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
I was going to say, that to me, Jordan is, in my eyes, like the closest thing we have to prime Albert Pujols, with the ability to hit for average plus the power outside of a guy like, Judge obviously had, an unreal year, but I think Judge's year last year was like, just a crazy, or the last 2 years have just been like crazy anomalies as far as the MLB goes as a whole. Like, Jordan is a true guy I think can hit for 300 plus every single year, plus 30
Triple crown
wins.
threat. Yep. He really can be.
Very much so.
And the power, just the sheer power side of that.
Dude has he played? Does he have any plate appearances in the outfield at all? Brian, do you know?
Yeah, he's played left field a couple times.
Okay. He's leading in WAR right now, and I was like, from a DH, that's ridiculous.
Well, you think about it too. He would have another home run if that one ball hadn't hit the roof,
ceiling,
and bounced
right,
into the
right.
foul
Yeah.
territory. So
Yeah. Let's see. He has. I gotta scroll a little bit.
Hey, talking about home run robberies, James Wood just brought one back for the Nationals in the Cardinals
Yeah,
game.
I just saw that. He has got 23 innings in the outfield so far. I was going to mention, though, I was kind of looking at our predictions and stuff like that. So Jordan's leading in every category: 400 average, 578 OBP, 900 slug, 285 WRC plus. But who's in second place? Somebody give me a guess, unless you've looked at it.
I haven't looked at it. Jordan Walker.
No. It's a good guess, though.
I was taking a stab at it.
My boy Ben Rice.
Yes, that is
okay,
true.
okay,
275 WRC plus.
okay.
Horrible in defensive metrics, but
Hey, he got
We
the
take
best
what we can
sponsorship
get.
I've ever seen, though. Him and Uncle
That's
Charles
right.
or the
That
Ben's
was
Rice
fantastic.
partnered up. I was like, that's the perfect collab right there.
That's right. It's got to be.
so my prediction for him breaking out is I've been trying to get him on my fantasy team for 2 weeks, but nobody refuses to trade him, which I understand why. Yeah, and so I wanted to go over the season a little bit so far. Has there been any like letdowns, surprises, exactly how you thought it, players wise, teams wise? I'm gonna throw one out there. To me, the Boston Red Sox right now are just like, what the heck is going on there? They are last place. They're 2-7.
Yeah.
I mean, standings don't matter, so I'm not necessarily focusing on standings right now, but negative 15 run differential, so they've scored 30 runs. They've given away 45 runs. They're 1-2 at home, 1-5 away. They started with a road trip, so they are. I'm just like, what's going on?
Yeah.
The pitching has been atrocious the first time through, aside from Crochet. Sonny Gray has been awful 2 times through.
That's all right. We knew that.
Yeah, we did know that. Maybe I was seeing this on Twitter. I was like, maybe Contreras has bad luck for everywhere he goes, because the Cardinals are off to a really good start now that he's gone.
It's rough, man. I would piggyback on that. I'll go player side for me. And again, this is maybe a little hometownish, but just the unraveling of Dustin May. And it's not really just been that his pitching has been that bad. He just cannot get people out. He'll look good in flashes, but then it's just kind of falling apart. And then on the flip side to that is I'd be like, where is this A's offense that we thought was going to be there?
Yeah.
I was very high on them, and it seems like the offense that the Astros have is really what the A's should have been.
Right. Yeah, that's
for
really good. We knew the
Langoliers.
pitching was going to be bad, but yeah, their offense has yet to show up. I would add on top of that, in the same division, the Astros getting off and doing what they're doing with the start that they have. They're only 6-4, so it's not like the record's ridiculous.
Right.
It's not the Yankees record, but just the offensive numbers and pitching numbers that they're putting out has been like, okay, this team is showing why they've been, the leader for so many years.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, obviously my Cubbies aren't looking so hot, but if I was going to call out another National League team that it's been really weird watching, it would be the Giants. The Giants look absolutely abysmal right now. I mean, they're worse in the standings than the Rockies, and I mean they've got a negative 25 run differential right now. They've only scored 26 runs through 10 games.
I think that is the worst run differential in the league right now.
I'd say probably. Yeah, looks like it by a pretty decent margin.
Yep.
I mean, it's not like we're talking either that they're not giving up runs, but they're just not hitting the ball like Boston's kind of run into a little bit in a couple of their games. Like, they're not scoring runs, and they're giving up a bunch of runs, and it's even guys that shouldn't be giving up runs that are giving up runs. So, it's pretty weird.
I would say go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
No, go for it. You start it.
I was gonna say the Phillies have been incredibly surprising. after the WBC, I don't know. I could read too much into body language with players and stuff like that, but seeing Schwarber and company on the U.S. team has just kind of made me like, what are these guys like? The way Harper carried himself. It's an exhibition tournament, maybe they care about the game. To Judge's point that he said, everybody cares and shows passion differently, but that offense in Philly right now is atrocious. They're winning games enough, they're 5-4, so they're above 500. So it's not like they're the most terrible thing in the world, but like they're winning because their pitching is holding up. When their pitching doesn't hold up, they are atrocious because their offense just isn't scoring very much right now. -6 run differential for them, which is just, man, it's surprising for how much money they have and how much star power they have on the offensive side of the ball. Yeah, and it's a small sample size, obviously.
No, and I'll flip it for two teams in the East, one in the National, one in the American. I mean, obviously the Marlins, I mean, even without Stowers, who was by far their best hitter last year, I mean, they're still doing work. I mean, they're, they beat the Yankees the other day. I mean, and then on the flip side, the Yankees were the other team. Like we knew the Yankees were going to be good and competitive, but I think what's been more surprising is their starting pitching.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of Fried, we weren't real sure what we were going to get. Schlittler, we thought would be the real deal, but that whole staff has they have gotten off to the start that I've never really seen since, since the Jeter, A-Rod, all of that Yankee team, and so that could be very, very dangerous for the rest of the league, or at least the AL East right now, because it doesn't seem like anybody else in that division really wants to play outside of Tampa Bay, because they're playing all the National League teams right now and just figuring it out.
Yeah. Well, like you said, go ahead, Tim.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, that was with the Yankees. It's like, it's not just that they're scoring runs. They've only given up 22 runs all year.
Right.
That's absurdly low.
Mm-hmm. I was going to mention, I mean, we're a week and a half in, so it's not like the sample size. It should be a blanket statement. This is so small sample. This is not what the end of the season's going to be. I think we're just appreciating the starts and looking, but the East in and of itself is just like, the Rays are doing Rays things. Everybody in the East, minus the Yankees, has a negative run differential. The Blue Jays got stomped by the Rockies.
Right.
In that series. Now, Kirk just went on the IL, but their pitching's been pretty good, especially Gosman. I would say it sucks losing Ponce the way that they did. Like that sucks big time.
Yeah.
But the Baltimore's 3-6, -9 run differential in the first week.
Alonso's not hitting. He's making me look really, really bad right now.
I mean, the Yankees are making us all look bad, because I'm just looking right now. We all said Brian said the Yankees won't, but I also said they're going to regress like crazy. And Judge isn't necessarily he's not hitting like crazy.
Yep.
Right.
He's above league average, but he's not hitting like crazy. But I think Rice is obviously carrying the team right now, but their pitching, to your point, Michael, has just been insane. I was looking the other day. Let me pull this up. The ERA leaders right now, Seattle is at a 2.46, and the Yankees are at 2.68. So right there. Let me look at K per 9. Toronto with 11.6, Milwaukee, of course they are.
Right. That's another team that I don't want to talk about, but they're there.
I know. Yep, they are.
Their offense is crazy right now.
Yeah, they are.
So dumb.
They have the best run difference, plus 28. They're what Boston it was supposed to be doing, according to all of us right now.
Right.
Houston with the 11 K per 9. Houston surprised me as a whole. I really am surprised and shocked. Again, small sample, we got to see, but it has been a surprising start. The Cardinals should not have the record that they have. The Cubs should not have the record that they have either.
Yeah.
Cubs with a positive run differential, but last in the standings.
Well, I think the Seattle piece is weird. Like you talked, they've barely got a 2 ERA. They're just not scoring runs right now either.
Right.
And it's that offense. Well, they're getting production out of Donovan, but outside of that, their other big time players are not giving them much to really desire right now. So we knew their pitchers would do their thing. I mean, they've got a pitching staff full of Cy Young contenders, basically. But the fact that they're not hitting is kind of interesting and a little concerning. The fact that Cal is striking out as often as he is, because you can take him hitting into stuff, but I mean, I think I saw he has like 20 Ks already on the year or something ridiculous.
It's not good. How about Andy Pages winning Player of the Week, dude?
Well,
That's
I mean,
crazy.
I was just looking at like team offense. I mean, and again, we all know the Dodgers are who they are, right? Yeah. But I mean, like in 9 games, they've got 16 home runs as a team. I mean, Houston trails them with 14, and then you've got Atlanta and then Pittsburgh, which who would have said that, right? Pittsburgh in the top 5.
Yeah, we should probably mention that because that offense has shown itself to be like, what?
And so it's just so fascinating to me. Like you start going up and down and you just look at like, you know, the teams that are there. I mean, obviously the teams that have the best records and are performing the best, there's a reason some of their records are where they are. You know, but when you look at like teams like the Mets, like they're middling.
Yep.
Who are they really going to be? You look at, you know, some of the Phillies, you brought that up, Tim, like, you know, what's really going to happen, you know, with that, because that is an older core. And again, I'm not trying to compare teams because neither the Phillies or the Cardinals are in the same place. But like when Goldie and Arenado and all them were here, like as they aged, when they didn't perform, the rest of the team fell apart.
Yeah.
And so you just wonder if, you know, some of those things are coming back to bite them on that side. I mean, again, Sanchez is a stud there. Luzardo gets
their
moved.
Rotation's incredible.
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, and so there has to be something, you know, because obviously you play a week and a half. Sure, every team's going to slump, but
everything's also inflated.
Yeah.
Right. So like the really high highs, obviously they're going to tail off, but the lows sometimes don't go away.
Yep.
And that's what's more concerning. Like you mentioned Raleigh and some of these other big time players. Like, what if they don't? What do these teams become if nothing changes?
Yep.
You know, I think it's worth mentioning. So I'm just going by WRC plus. I think that's kind of a pretty nice generic offensive stat.
Yeah.
Houston is the WRC plus leader in baseball right now at 153.
Right.
Which the next below is the Dodgers at 139. That gap is really interesting because 2, 3, and 4 are all within 10 points of each other. And then what's also surprising is Arizona's location at this. They're at 26th in baseball at 80 WRC plus.
Well, like you said, like things are really inflated right now. They're playing 500 ball and they have a negative 17 run differential, but are winning games.
Right. Right.
It's kind of like when you win close. When you lose, you get blown out. That's the Cardinals' life for like the last 2 or 3 years.
Right.
I was thinking about Kansas City. They have been where are they sitting at right now? They're 4 and 5. They're below 500. Negative 5 run differential. The Guardians honestly are pretty shocking. If I'm going to be honest with you, they've come out. They have a negative 4 run differential, but
their pitching
has just been like insane, and the other pitching has been fantastic.
Right.
They're just one of those teams that just seems to they're a lot like the Brewers. Like, where do they keep finding these guys? Because they just keep pulling guys out of a hat, and it's like, I've never heard of this dude, and all of a sudden he's got a 2.8 ERA by the All-Star break, and you're like, all right, well, never mind, Cleveland's good again.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I mean, to your point, the WRC plus really, as far as the offensive side, tells a lot, but it can be misleading too, because you've got the Reds who are sitting at 6 and 3, and they're one of the bottom dwellers in that as well. And it's because they're winning these games, whether you want to consider it luck or just, you know, other teams aren't performing when, you know, in the majority of their games. And so they're winning not with production. It's just happenstance. And you got to think if that stays. Now, I think the Reds are a little bit better than where they are right now in WRC plus.
Yeah.
But if that stays, they're going to be it all averages out, and they're going to be at the bottom soon because they're going to hit a skid. You just these teams that you're playing right now, and that's some of the other thing that I think is important to mention about a lot of these teams is, and we haven't looked at it, but who they're playing.
Yeah.
Too is a big deal. The schedule really does make a difference. Not in every case, but most cases. Like you look at the teams that are playing some of the stronger competition.
Except in the Blue Jays case.
Right. That's what I said. It's not a guarantee, but you know, the majority of people are playing, you know, good teams or at least mid-tier teams, and they're splitting or going two games to 3, you know, those type of things. It does really say a difference. Now, if this stays after a month of the season, like let's say Cincinnati is that low, and they stay with a record similar to this, then you could start talking about there's going to be some real oddity to this baseball season. But I feel like it's going to kind of work itself out a little bit here over the next couple weeks.
I feel like that's true, but I do feel like there's always a few outliers that are just like nobody saw coming. What the heck? Why are the Marlins still leading the East after 3 months? How is that that's not supposed to happen? Type of thing. I do feel like that's true. Most things will even themselves out. Run differential really does speak to a lot. If you win enough close games, though, you're going to have a negative differential, but still you have a decent standing. Doesn't mean you're going to be successful outside of the regular season at all, but
but again, put this in perspective, and this comes from the interview earlier. The Cardinals, they're 5-4 going into tonight's game.
Yeah.
If they did that pace for the entire season, win 5 out of 9 games, how many games do you think they win overall?
I think it's like a 90 or 91 win team.
It's a 92 win season right there. Like, so if the Cardinals can keep this pace just slightly above 500 in 9 games, we're talking they're going to be competing for the National League Central at that point.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, you start to put that in perspective. So then you look at it from Cincinnati, and I'm just staying in the Central side. They're 6-3. They keep that pace up. They're well over 100 wins in a season. We really think that's going to happen? I mean, again, stranger things have happened, but I don't see that happening.
You got to pair that, though, a little bit with the expected, and it's that we're both expected to be at 4-5, which is a 78 win season or something like that. But that also means the Cubs are supposed to be 5-4, which is a 90 win.
It's a 92,
team.
right? That's why I say it's going to even itself out, right? Because most of the numerical lines, the stat lines, that's what they were telling us all along. The Cubs are going to be the 92 win team, and they're going to win the division. Like, and so that's why I said, like, give me a month, and if some of these oddities stay, okay, then I'm going to start paying attention to, like, okay, what's really going on in some of these places.
Right. Speaking of, let's go ahead and jump into that. Let's do our what are we going to call it? Hometown breakdown. Hometown breakdown. So I would say the Cardinals and Cubs this season has been an interesting opposite parallel. We kind of brought it up a little bit, but Michael, give us a breakdown of your Cubbies the last week. What you think's going on, and some deets.
I was about to have a breakdown 2 days ago. Obviously, like I said, a couple bad beats. The Cubs put Cade Horton on the IL 2 days ago. Today, they put Matt Boyd on the IL. And, we're looking right around the corner. We're supposed to be getting Justin Steele back. So, all things are looking up, and then all of a sudden you get hit with two of your better starting pitchers are just out unexpectedly. So tough blow there. But hitters-wise, seeing great things out of Miguel Amaya. Guy's batting over 400 right now. On the opposite side of the spectrum, you have some of these guys like Mo Baller, who had a great spring, is off to an abysmal start. And I would say he's definitely a candidate that, if he continues this for 3 weeks, getting sent back down to AAA when Suzuki's ready to go. So I would say, it's kind of the high highs and the low lows. We're watching a guy in Michael Bush that, we're all pretty high on, and he's batting like 188 currently. So it's a little weird.
Yeah.
Like I said, kind of some unfortunate stuff. Horton looked absolute nails through his first start in a quarter, and then unfortunately has to hit the IL. So that's obviously concerning because he's definitely the best pitcher on the Cubs staff right now, and he's had injury history, so even more reason to be concerned. But he did the mature thing, from the sounds of things. He said he started to feel a little bit of something in his wrist moving up into his forearm, and he pulled himself out of the game. He said when he was younger, he played through the pain, ended up causing further damage, and that meant he had to have Tommy John surgery. So trying to prevent something like that happening currently. So especially early in the season like this, I would rather he make a call like that. It's cold outside up there in Cleveland right now during that game, so I'm sure that kind of factored too. But yeah, it's also really, I think I may have mentioned it to you guys the other day, but it's been really interesting to see how Council's been managing the lineups. He has been going right-hand, left-hand lineup, but from the standpoint of you're watching a guy in Michael Bush go from leading off to being the fifth batter. You're watching PCA go from the 4 hole down to the 7.
Yeah, I think he was 8 today too, right?
Yeah, so it's been kind of strange to watch that. I kind of understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, how much of that is factoring seeing a couple guys get off to bad starts, because you got a couple guys where they're like, this is where I'm batting. Like Dansby Swanson knows where he's batting in the lineup, and Happ and Bregman, those guys have stayed in the same spot. But you've seen Nico Horner move. You've watched, I said, Michael Bush move. You watched PCA move. And so that's been kind of odd. Like I said, I understand where he's coming from in doing that. Especially like you look at the splits last year, PCA really struggled against lefties. But if you look against Michael Bush actually hit pretty well as far as his splits go. Obviously, you probably not as high as he was against righties, but his splits weren't terrible. But then again, Nico Horner is electric against lefties and absolutely wrecks them. So you understand why you're putting him up there at the top of your lineup whenever they are facing a lefty, because guy's probably a 350 plus batter against lefties or something ridiculous because he's a contact guy. But it's lost a couple heartbreakers. Games that we're leading and then all of a sudden we put in a reliever that gives up 3 runs in the 7th or 8th inning, and you're going, well, there goes the game. And it's a tough blow, but it's manageable early in the season like this. You just hope they can get some of that stuff figured out. I have to sit here right now and not panic, too, because we are just a week and a half into the season.
Right.
It doesn't help that everybody else in the Central is off to a pretty good start, so it's making the Cubs look worse too. But the overall,
we take those wins.
Absolutely, and you should. And if these other teams are smart, they continue to obviously try to gain a big lead, because we've all talked here, like the Cubs have a very talented roster. If everyone's healthy and playing out there, they definitely could go win 90 plus games. But if you have Cade Horton has to be out an extended time, or Matt Boyd's out an extended time that you're not expecting, all of a sudden you're going to have to thrust, Shota is going to move up in where you're pitching him. You're going to move Jameson Taillon up in the rotation from where you had him as well. And so guys you may have seen winning some of these games, all of a sudden there's more pressure on them, and maybe they start losing some games that you didn't necessarily expect that they would be losing. So I guess the only other real high I would hit on is been the Cubs' big offseason acquisition. Edward Cabrera has been fantastic. Through 2 games, he's thrown close to 12. I pulled up the stats here.
11.2.
Yeah,
looking at
close to 12 innings. He's only given up 2 hits. Now, he's got a higher walk rate than I'd like to see, but that's been kind of him for a lot of his career. Like I said, he typically have a little higher K rate, I would believe, but he's not giving up the runs, so I can take that. Like I said, overall he's been pretty good. Already got a quality start under his belt too. So for a guy that I was hoping going to be like our 3, probably going to be, pushed up to the 2 or 1 for a short time here. Hopefully he can just kind of steady things out, but overall pretty happy with where he's sitting right now.
What do you think about the no-hitter, the almost no-hitter?
Is what it is, man. Is what it is.
Yeah.
You just shake your head.
I'm blanking on his name, not Hunter. I keep wanting to say Hunter Renfroe, but who is that outfielder?
Conforto?
Yeah, Conforto,
Yeah.
Michael Conforto. There's so much talk about him getting him released, like he's the bad luck of the team and everything right now.
Yeah, it's one of those things too. We are starting to see Matt Shaw. He's been playing multiple games there in right field, and so your good buddy Dylan Carlson has played very, very minute amount of ball, but he did play yesterday. You have to get a hit so far, so technically Conforto's been better, but I would rather have Conforto get DFA'd than I would Carlson right now, just because I believe Carlson is a nicer, 4th outfielder at this point in his career, because we saw a really bad year from Conforto last year. Spring training was really bad for him, and he's not playing well at all right now. You saw a little bit of life from Carlson in spring training, where you're like, there may be a little bit of something there, and we don't need him to be your everyday starter.
Right.
Like I said, a 4th outfielder, totally fine piece to have out there every 5th or 6th day or whatever. I'm fine with that. But
even with that negative 100 WRC plus,
I'll take it. I'll take it. But Matt Shaw, on top of that, I think he's batting like 270 right now too. So bat's coming around a little bit to go along with. He's figuring out right field. Like we said, it's going to be a bit of a learning curve for him, especially early in the year. It is an absolute wind tunnel in the right field in Wrigley early in the year. And Wrigley in general, right field's a little tough to play. For those who may be a little more casual fan, like the right field wall butts up right against the foul line there in right field. And like there's literally no room at all between the wall and the line. And so these guys really have to learn how to play a ball off that wall, and also have to learn how to play just running to that wall to go make a grab and stuff. Because there are times where you're just better off not running full force into a wall. It's a brick wall. So sometimes you have to concede, maybe a ball that's right there on the line, and just figure out where you need to set yourself up to go field that ball off that. And so I'd say, we're going to be looking at all-star break time, and Matt Shaw's going to be surely the full-time right fielder is the way it's kind of shaping up to me. Because you could have seen a world in which like a Conforto or a Carlson, one of the two, comes out, plays really well. You see Shaw struggling out in the outfield, and they're like, well, he's a bit of a gap right there, right now, and so we'll give him every 3rd or 4th game. We'll let him play right field. But these guys are hitting the ball, and they know how to play in the outfield because that's all they've done their entire career.
Yeah.
That's not been the case so far. Neither one of them are hitting the ball. So you'd rather watch them push your chips of the young player that you are heavily invested in then.
So last question I have is what's going on with Michael Bush? I'm looking at the numbers and they're bad, but I'm looking at Savant and it's actually not too bad.
Yeah.
High percentiles for squared up, chase, whiff, K, walks. He's just not. His bat speed is in the bottom 7%. That's actually crazy.
You're seeing a little bad luck too. Like I watched him hit a ball, just like you said, squared it up perfectly against Cleveland on the one at bat, and just drilled it right at the first baseman, who got a double play because Bush hammers this ball right down the first baseline. And, of course, Carson Kelly jumps off first base just to take a secondary, and the guy ends up with a double play because of it. So it's it's one of those things. Bush is a guy that, I'm not really concerned about just because he's a pretty consistent guy. He's not a guy that, you're going to see these crazy high highs and then low lows like you're going to see with PCA. Like PCA, you're going to see a point in the season where you're like, dude, this guy's batting like 400 over the last 2 weeks. And then you're going to see a stretch where he's like, dude, this dude's batting a 150 over the last 2 weeks. And you're like, what's going on? Bush is a more consistent guy that it's like, Yeah, he's had a little bad luck, like I said. I do think he'll come through it. Part of that probably is they played their first 2 series in Wrigley, and the wind was killing stuff like crazy in those 2 series. So, he probably had some balls that he got up in the air, and it's like those things are getting caught all day. Unless, it just takes it into foul territory or something because they're just hanging up there.
Well, when you guys play the Nationals, hopefully you get Michaelis on the bump. That'll, even out his numbers for sure.
We did, and we had a nice little game against him.
I was going to say,
that opening series. And
so something I'm looking at real quick, one more thing. Ian Happ's numbers are really bizarre. Dude's got 4 home runs. 4 home runs, but he's got a 43.9% K rate.
Yeah.
189 average.
Home run or bust right now.
100%.
Yeah, that is an interesting for Happ. That's because that's not Happ's profile to me.
No. He has taken 5 walks, which is what makes it even weird. Like you said, his statistics are all over the place. Like, especially for a guy like you, Tim, who is definitely one that looks at a lot of statistics. Like, I'm sure your brain's exploding right now looking at all these. Because, there's part of you going, this guy's having a nice season, and then you continue to read down his line, and you're like, this guy's having a terrible season.
Yeah.
So,
4 home runs, though.
2 of them were in a 2-game stretch, too. So.
I was going to say, when he runs into it, he runs into it.
Yep.
It's just...
Over and over, yeah.
Well, and to his credit, he should have a 5th home run, but once again, that Wrigley win, he had a ball that he hit, I think it was like the 3rd game of the year or something, and they said, like, StatCast showed that ball would have gone 500 feet. It had like every perfect metric you wanted in the world, but it fell 100 feet short of the fence because the wind was blowing 35 miles an hour in. So it's like, what are you going to do?
Right.
And I guess Miguel Amaya is this year's version of what's the catcher from last year? I'm forgetting.
Carson Kelly.
Carson Kelly, yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like Amaya is supposed to be their starting catcher, and he was supposed to be last year. He just ran into like a couple of really freak injuries. Like last year, he literally returned first game back, running to first base, and it got like a severe hamstring pull. And it's like, well, what are you gonna do? It's like one of those things. So, but no, and it's nice to see him getting off to that good of a start because throughout his career, he's been a pretty good defensive catcher with a little bit of offensive upside, but. I mean, if you can get that type of production out of him for most of the season, obviously he's not going to hit 400, but if you can get that guy batting 270, 280 throughout most of the year, drop a 30 home run season or something, you're going to be feeling really good about what that guy's bringing to the lineup.
April Carson Kelly.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. All right, Brian, take us through the Redbirds from the past week.
Oh man, I mean, again, it can't be said enough. I mean, I think it's positive. Obviously, when you talk about being 5-4, this is a team that's really trying to let the young guys play and develop. And I think what we've seen, to me, has been some positive steps. I mean, when you start looking at the statistic line, all of that stuff, I mean, you got Victor Scott, who's 310. That's your boy there, and average leading the team. I mean, who would have seen that coming from your 9-hole hitter?
I mean, I did, but
right. I mean, but I mean, the fact that he has figured out how to bunt and bunt effectively has really changed the game. I think we all knew who JJ Weatherholt was. And again, I wasn't one that was on this bandwagon that he was going to come up here and hit 400 for the first month of the season. Yeah. But he's been good. He gets on base. I mean, he hits the ball. He's going to ebb and flow, especially as a rookie, still trying to figure it out a little bit. I'm not going to fanboy all over Jordan Walker again. I did that earlier. I think some of the concerns that I'm starting to maybe look at is like Burleson. The hitting and the power's not there. You would have liked to seen a little bit more of that. Herrera's not necessarily off to a horrible start, but again, not a great start. There's still some big, pieces. Win, obviously, he's not striking out, but he's not getting on base. He's struggling. Car accident, a little bit of the hip. I mean, he's in there tonight, which is a good sign. Left field has been a complete miss, no matter who they've put out there to this point.
Yes, it has.
And so it's like, some of those questions of obviously like Velasquez or even Josh Baez, who are absolutely destroying the ball down in the minors to start the season. It's like, would this even be like, we be talking about the Cardinals sitting at 6-3 with a couple different bats in the lineup? And then I know you and I have had some extensive conversations and talk about our boy behind home plate there. And Pedro Paez, again, I don't know what he has on the whole front office to keep himself in some of these games, but or what dirty laundry he has on the entire Cardinals roster. I don't know.
Right.
I mean, he's probably a great guy, and I'm not trying to like knock on him in any sense, but the production just hasn't been there. And even defensively, which was the whole purpose, and him being behind the plate it's just not there. And I was in, I'll even take, some, humble pie, because I was in the boat of saying we need to move on from Jimmy Crooks, right? Like just use him as trade like we did with Carson Kelly. But what that kid is doing in the minors right now, and his defensive profile is better than what Paez is. And so it's like, why is he not up getting the primary catching role, and then Herrera getting kind of spaced in to give him a day off on that side? So those are the question marks I have. And then obviously we knew the starting pitching was going to kind of ebb and flow. I did not expect Dustin May to be the big struggler. But he is. But on the flip side, Libator's been lights out. Like, dude's been nails. Bullpen over the last couple games has started to settle down nicely. I was very concerned, for the first few games, because it seemed like if the bullpen came in, it didn't matter if you had a lead or not, it was gone. Started to settle down, so getting a little comfortable there. But overall, I mean, I think it's positive. I like the direction. And maybe some of these guys will prove me wrong. I like Church as a fourth outfielder. I don't necessarily like him starting in left as much as he has been, but for Ollie's perspective, no matter who they put out in left, nobody's really been performing. So JC's not doing it. I mean, it just really hasn't mattered. I mean, even for me, going out to left has not really been getting it done. So it's like, I'll be interested to see if they give it another couple weeks and then maybe we see a difference. I know ultimately the goal has always been they're trying to just bide time for Nootbaar to get back, and Nootbaar is going to be in left at least until the trade deadline, or a team makes a move for him at some point.
When's he due back?
That
He's
is
on
a good
60,
question.
so it'd be the end of May.
Right. So it's like, do you really want to wait that long, or do you want to try and change things up? And I was getting ready to hammer Urias as the pickup in, for our team, and he just hit a 2-run home run to give the Cardinals a lead. So
Oh, wow. Yeah, look at that.
like, I was getting ready to say, like, I mean, you pick him up obviously just as a defensive replacement because you're going to give Gorman an opportunity there, but he's been absolutely abysmal, and then he does that. So maybe this is a good omen for us, Tim. Just start bashing them on pod, and they'll start play.
I would counter with that. When you think about it visually, Urias has been like kind of mid, but before this game, he's above average WRC plus. He's our fourth best hitter, above Herrera right now.
Ouch.
Now, Herrera, that's based on Herrera's first week being bad. Second half, or into week 2, he's actually starting to put it together, and it's a small sample because Wynn's the worst hitter in baseball. But you said he was going to put it together, Michael.
I did.
We all think he does. But Urias has been, he's been above league average, which is all you can ask for from your backup third baseman that's going to hit against lefties. But he does have a 46% K rate.
Right. Like, again, there's some anomalies. Like, it's things like that. And like I said, overall, positive. I'm with you. Like, it's positive steps for the Cardinal. The biggest thing I think on the pitching side is we went out to get all this swing and miss, and I think we're bottom in K per 9.
We are
bottom in the league in K per 9. So it's like, that's not working. So it's like, what are we going to do?
That I was just going to bring that up. We're 30th in 30 out of 30 teams in strikeout per nine. We're striking out people at 6% of the time, which is
yeah, it's pretty bad, man.
That's atrocious for everybody.
right.
Let me hit the positives first. Obviously, Walker is a positive.
Yeah.
Yes, you can fanboy.
Even the Savant page that you sent is just like, wow, he's doing everything correctly thus far, which is all you can ask for. You know, it's a long season, and we can't. You know, the only data we have is the data we have right now, and the swing decisions that he's making right now, which is awesome. JJ has been an interesting. I'm trying to think of how. Trying to think analytically and emotionally. I think I had higher expectations for him, which is funny because he's a rookie and everybody struggles. He didn't get the cup of coffee thing that, you know, everybody tends to get. In the big leagues. So I remember Wynn's first cup of coffee, he was atrocious, and then the next year, the full year he had is great. So I think you got to give every rookie that, you know, like little cup of coffee play. But he's still above average. 114 WRC plus is still a pretty good line for a rookie. He's walking a lot, which is a big part, I think, of where he's at. I would agree with you, though. Brian Burleson sitting where he's at is interesting. Yeah. The more I look at him, I think that first series that we had versus the Rays. You and I are kind of talking about this yesterday. Excuse me. I find it interesting that the first series across the board in baseball, the offense is just like out of this world. It just feels like everybody is hitting everything so well, and then the next series everybody settles in. It's like, oh, pitchers are throwing breaking balls now because and this could be exclusive to our opening series, but I did watch a bunch and I feel like it's true. Fastballs are so well timed coming out of spring training because it's what you were hitting. And in the Rays series, like the Cardinals and the Rays just like out hit everything. And Burleson was like, oh shoot, this is going to be an MVP player. 3 games, smallest sample size in the world, and now he's not hitting very well, and he's grounding double plays a lot. So I would venture to say his timing's kind of off, or maybe he's making bad swing decisions. So with the small sample size, you kind of got to give it a little bit of time to see if it evens out. Because on the flip side, Herrera started atrociously, and now he's picking it up. His timing is back. I would say the biggest disappointment really is the pitching more than anything. And maybe it's a high expectation. You know, if you look at some of the expected stats from last year from some of these players and pitchers, you're like, that kind of makes sense. I thought they were going to be better just simply because, especially the bullpen, the Cardinals have managed a bullpen like really, really well. Top 15 in baseball with names that nobody knows and players that shouldn't be good that are. But this year, they all suck. For the most part. Now, I will say sometimes they luck into some games and you're like, oh, hey, he found the strike zone. We won the game. The pitcher found the strike zone. But the other times it's like, whoa. But just some metrics, like I think they're not making anybody miss bats. So like that can't hold up, and that's not sustainable. You can't be 30th and 29th in K per 9. For the whole season and win games and hold leads and stuff. So like that, they're going to have to figure that out at some point, because that will decimate your team. It makes me think of the Diamondbacks last year, Washington last year. Like those guys just could not miss bats, the worst bullpens in the league. So I would say that's a pretty big disappointment. Not to be a downer on my boy Victor Scott, but he's getting really lucky right now. So I'm curious how that evens out, because Homeboy's rocking one of the best BABIPs in baseball right now at 450, and that's not sustainable.
For sure.
No, but let me say this too, though, that speed, he has the ability. Like, I know right now it projects as luck, but a lot of that is not it's not just luck. It's just the fact that he is fast and has speed.
Sure.
And it forces teams to do things differently than they normally would. That's why I think, like, because some of the argument has been, why not let him swing the bat a little bit more? It seems like if there's a guy on first, whether there's one out or no outs, he's
Yeah.
bunting. Like that's been what it has been. And I don't know if that's been the call or his own choice or a little bit of both. But I think some of the growth that I've seen in him that I like is the fact that he is willing to do that, and he is getting the bunts down in places that are harder for the pitchers and the catchers and even the corner infielders as they're charging to get to and make a clean throw. And it's it's not going to necessarily show up on the average, other things like that, but it's already causing headaches for teams.
I don't want to I'm not discrediting that, because I actually think that's a really powerful thing. I think the Marlins are have some of the highest average of offenses in the game, because they don't have a lot of power across the board. Casey's got some pop, but what's that kid's name that is on the IL?
Stowers.
Stowers is on the IL, who is probably the biggest source of their power. So they have to put the ball in play, which is what the Cardinals have to do, and that's going to win them games this year. That's the only thing that they got. They don't have the power of the slug and stuff like that. So I'm not discrediting that, because I think that's actually really fun to watch. I would just say Victor's going to have to make some adjustments in some sort of way, and maybe it's not possible if he wants to stay for 3 or 4 years. Because remember, my prediction was he's either going to lock that job in for 3 years or he's going to get sent down. And I do know that the Cardinals system has got some crazy talent in the center field position with power and speed. So he's going to have to make some sort of adjustment that lets him hit more.
Yeah.
And bunting is cool, and I love to see it. His speed's got to play. I think of Chandler Simpson right now. He's hitting like almost 400. That's the type of thing that he's got to be able to do, not just bunt his way on.
Yep.
The havoc is good. I don't want to discredit that, because I think it is actually really, really important. But he's got to do something more, because this isn't as sustainable.
But here's the thing, too. Right now, it's hard for him to be that style. Like, he needs to be a slap hitter, right, with his speed. But if you watch a lot of his at-bats, like even go back and watch tonight, the first few, they are jamming him inside with everything, forcing him to pull the ball or bunt the ball. That's the only two options that he's getting at this point in at-bats. Now, obviously, he's got to do something different, and I think that's why we've seen more bunting up front at the beginning of the year, is to allow him to force some of the action, to maybe start to get pitchers to start pitching him away a little bit more, because it's harder to bunt a ball that's away from your body than it is closer into your body.
Yeah, it happened in last night's game.
Right. And so then he can start slapping and spraying the ball more. And that's what you need to see from him. He is not going to be your power guy. I mean, maybe he could run into, 10 to 15 on a good year, but that's not what you're looking for from him. And so, that's why I guess for me, it hasn't been as bad. Like, I see the strategy behind
I'm just saying
what they've been doing. Fair enough. I think it is, but we can argue about that all night.
Last thing I'll mention is that I do think the catching situation has got to get itself. They're going to have to make a decision. It'll probably be May. I would say they're not going to do anything in April.
Yep.
Ollie has admitted that he's pretty slow to make player decisions. But Pedro is pretty mid in all of his defensive metrics thus far. He's losing a lot of challenges. He's actually getting a lot of pass balls. Yeah. So his calling card is defense, and if he's not doing that at a upper level, he's got some of the worst offensive stats. So he kind of becomes a really bad, I'm not trying to dunk on a human being, but a pretty dead weight player to a roster.
Yep.
Especially when you've got potentially, Crooks has had a great first week. Like everything that we've said so far, it's a small sample size. So I'm curious what they're going to have to do, because in a season that's supposed to be all about the young kids, Pedro's an old kid, so to speak, and not a future part of the organization. So I'm curious what they make that decision, because they have publicly said that they're impressed with Herrera behind the plate. He still has no arm. The dude bounced two throws in the Detroit series. So I'm curious what that's going to do. I don't think they're going to do anything in this month at all. if I'm being honest. But I'm curious, before the deadline, what's going to happen with all of that.
Yeah. I made a
Right.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
I agree.
I made a joke to a couple of the guys I work with that Pedro Paez is my favorite player on the Cardinals because he's just a hole in the roster.
Yeah.
Because he's supposed to be a great defender, but I was like, he's not been that. And I was like, yeah, like you said, he may run into a ball every once in a while, but the 200 average is pretty sustainable for who he is as a hitter.
I'd
Kinda
say
like
below
PCA,
that.
right?
Yeah.
Oh!
I love it.
You guys got anything else? We ready to wrap it up?
Yeah, just one more thing was we've got to mention the Pirates making one of the weirdest decisions I've ever seen and brought Connor Griffin up, the number 1 prospect in baseball, after not having him on the opening day roster. But then they don't hold out to get the extra year of time. Just pretty weird decision, but
they already signed him. It doesn't matter.
That's fair.
That signing's that's still not official. Like,
I know, but they're going to, right? Like they're going to work that out. So then
it depends if
service
he's
time becomes moot in that sense.
Yeah, true. Yeah, man, that's a front office is so confusing because they hypothetically did that with Paul Skeens and then they lost service time from him because he ended up winning Rookie of the Year, which Connor Griffin can still do,
right?
Because he's going to have enough plate appearances. But yeah, he's pretty electric. His first game, I'm not going to lie. It's pretty
I was
cool.
going to say, you can't knock on an organization for taking a chance to win it all, right?
Yep.
I mean, we asked that of all of our organizations. And I mean, now, was it the most strategic way to go about it? No, it's not.
Yeah.
He should have been on the opening day roster.
Yep.
I mean, there's no doubt about that. But he gives them the best chance with their current constructed lineup.
Hypothetically.
100%.
And it's that, like, the organization made no benefit because if they brought him on opening day, they could have got a draft pick for it, but now they lost that. They lost service time. Yeah, it's so dumb. But he is electric, man. I gotta say, I probably would take my odds back of him being Rookie of the Year over JJ because that kid's got some special talent.
Yeah,
we got to see contact come into play because he could swing and miss and be a 150 hitter this year because he's a rookie.
Yeah,
he's got to adjust. But I would say the tools there.
Yeah.
To O'Neal Cruz and him hitting those balls at 115 plus constantly. That's crazy.
100%.
Be fun to watch.
Yeah, it will be. Guys, make sure to watch Pittsburgh this year.
Yeah.
All right, I guess that's it, guys. So thank you all for listening to this episode. We will catch you in the next one.